It's the Powerpuff Girls Game. This ought to be a lot of fun. From Hasbro, from Cartoon Network. Let's pop it open, see what's inside. You got your game board that folds out. It's really big, about twice the size of most board game boards. Here's the manual. I like this about it. The manual uses full color, which I think, you know, it's a plus. It's a nice plus. You got your Powerpuff Girls. You got Blossom, Buttercup. You got your Powerpuff Girls. You got Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup. Interestingly, these are all one piece. They don't come apart. Comes with the cheap dice that you apply the stickers to. These are pretty common in games now. You got a nice stack of these cards. We'll go through each one, see all the different parts on them. So this is your large, full-size deck of cards. You have another set of cards. These are like thick cardboard ones, and they have information on them. Let's take a look at the manual, see how we play. I like this. The storage tray has full-color artwork on it. That's pretty cool. All right, so the winner is the first one to capture 4 villains. It says players will play cards that allow them to move one or all of the Powerpuff Girls. So you could be moving your opponent's players. Game is played in rounds. During your turn, you try to find and capture a villain. Playing around, players choose 2 cards from their hands. They place them face down. So this is like War, where you flip them over. Players look at the times in the upper left-hand corner of the cards in play. Assume you've got to do this before bedtime. They've got times on the top of each card. The player with the card with the earliest time plays that first. After a card is played, you discard it in a discard pile. That's fine. Next earliest time plays, so you go in order. So you go one round, another round. That makes sense. As when one or all of the Powerpuff Girls land on a space with a face-down Townsville tile, you have to turn it over. So we'll get a look at the board in a second, and we'll see that. The first player to capture all 4 villains wins. You do not finish the round, so as soon as you get them, that's it. There's no second place. Hint, players can play Professor Utonium tiles to force a player to reroll, thus possibly preventing a player from capturing her 4th villain. That's your tip. So I grabbed a handful of each of the cards. We'll look at some of these. So this one says that all the Powerpuff Girls are knocked out. So that's something. All right, so here's a villain. The Claw. Look at that Hydra. Looks like King Ghidra. It's Fuzzy Lumpkins. So there's that Professor tile we read about. The Amoeba Boys. Spike. Ace. Ooh, look at that. There's Snake. Grubber. The Turtle. Little Arturo. There is a ridiculous amount of these villain cards. So if you're a fan of this series, you got all the cards covered. I think that's pretty cool. These are pretty simple. It's all just move a certain player a certain amount of spaces. And remember, you're moving your opponents as well. I like that. This one, you send them all to Mojo Jojo's hideout. So lots of cool cards. All right, I'm going to set up the board and we'll take a look at it. All right, here's the setup. You got your 3 Powerpuff Girls. They start here at the Powerpuff Girls house. You got your cards. You deal 5 to each player. So I set it up for 2. So each player will get a handful of these cards. You got a draw pile, discard pile. You have one of these for each space except for the Powerpuff Girls house. I didn't bother to put them on each one, but you can see you've got the school over here, the park, the dump. You got Main Street, Mojo Jojo's hideout. So you got all these different spots, and these will tell you either to move a number of spaces or to move to a particular spot. These are the dice, which we talked about. There are reasons, but it's later in the game that you would use these. Let me tell you how that would work. So according to the instructions, let's say you landed here, right? So you land here, and you got this villain card. You defeat villains and capture them by rolling the battle dice. You need to roll 1 or more heart to defeat the villain. So there's more and more examples of what happens after that. But if we rolled, we got 2 hearts. Well, that was pretty good. The Powerpuff Girls game. I like this game. I like a game that has some strategy, but is relatively simple to learn. This is simple to learn and fun and doesn't require skill, which I also like. I like a game that has strategy, but it's really luck, which is what this is. It seems complicated at first because you have dice, you have a ton of cards. You have things all over the board. The board's enormous. I mean, it's like weirdly intimidating at first, but it's a very simple game. There is some artwork on the back. And it's very cool. I love that they have all those different characters. I like that you play together, you know, that you're three people competing, but you're kind of playing at the same time. Helpful for if you've got like a younger brother or sister that you're playing with. And, you know, a lot of times when you're playing with younger brothers and sisters, because I had them. I grew up with younger brothers and a younger sister. You're constantly going, no, no, you weren't supposed to flip those over. All right, I'm going to pretend I didn't see that. You're constantly doing that. Whereas a game like this, you know, they can follow along with you, which is pretty good. So I like this. We were talking about mascots recently. This was from the time period when Funko first started putting out the bobblehead dolls, and it like was this explosion of new bobbleheads. This is better than a lot of the Funko ones because you can see it bobbles. The original Funko ones, they were real rigid and they were plastic and the heads weren't heavy, but this one's better because the head's kind of big. Weirdly, it has a pencil sharpener in the back. Because the head's big, it kind of bobbles. The old ones bobbled all the time because they were like ceramic, so they were very heavy. I was going to do today, I was supposed to be recording about 1970s mascots, because there were a bunch of them. I mean, a ton. Some good ones too, some interesting ones. I'll give you some early. Slim Goodbody, Mikey from Life Cereal. So some really cool things to talk about, but I wasn't ready for that. So I said, well, let me dig into this Powerpuff Girls game because I know a lot of you guys grew up with that. I remember Powerpuff Girls specifically though from, they did like this world premiere tune-in, I think it was called. I think it was hosted by Space Ghost. And it was on Cartoon Network, and it was at night, and they showed like one section of the Powerpuff Girls. I thought that was cool. I saw that movie when that came out, and there was a short period of time where my son was into that show, thought it was a fun show. So I remember we watched that movie once. I also was in New York when the show was on the air, and I was in the Museum of Television and Radio, and Bubbles, Buttercup, and Blossom, which, by the way, when I was reading the instructions, I kept forgetting one of them. I'd get two of them and be like, gee, then cut, and you know. But the three of them came in, costumed characters, and I took a picture with two of them. I remember one of them, like, escaped pretty quickly. Like, three of them showed up. One of them was gone pretty quickly. But I took a picture. I don't think I can find it. If I could, I'll put it here. If not, I'll put something else there. And, ooh, look. But if I find it one day, I'll show it to you. I got a show in Richmond coming up this month. And I have these fake postcards I made up, which are greetings from Virginia, free napkins at Subway. And it's got this was like across the street from the convention center was this burned up pizza place that hadn't been open in years. It was like all boarded up, and then a Subway, which had a line a mile long. And I'm not opposed to eating a Subway sandwich. I think they make good sandwiches. I'm not waiting in a long line. Subway sandwich, if there's more than 4 people ahead of me, not having it. Having an acceptable time in Virginia. These are great. Free subscription to this channel, right? Look at that. Yeah, so I'll be giving more of these away. I like to just stick these places, and I feel like 9 out of 10 of them go in the trash, but the other one, somebody looks at it and it's like, oh, wait a minute, this is a joke. This is funny. Not affiliated with or responsible for West Virginia. Another mascot. I got a bobblehead of him over here. KFC. We did this on the channel. A lot of people liked seeing this. I don't know how much you guys like seeing the old video game stuff, but I like the old video game stuff is a big part of my life. I just don't know. I don't know. Some people watch for one thing, some people watch for the other thing, you know. There. All right. Well, me and the Colonel are saying goodbye. Box over here, box over there. You choose either one. Come back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We're going to do those 70s mascots, unless I'm not ready. But I'm like 99% sure I'll be ready. We'll be talking 70s mascots tomorrow at 2 o'clock. See you there.